Hey guys, how's it going? This is the Bald Metal Nerd coming at you with another video. And this video is actually preempting another one I was going to upload, but after this one I'll upload the other video I was going to put up. But you'll be amazed kind of how, in a way, they actually strangely a bit tie into each other. Not intentionally, just kind of coincidence more than anything. Of course, this video, I'm going to be, if you've read the title, I am talking about the tragedy that just occurred in Las Vegas, as well as politicizing tragedy, and, kind of how, realistically, I know exactly what's going to happen as far as Las Vegas goes, and why I think kind of it's the wrong direction for us as society to go in. As well as I'm going to offer what I think might be a better way forward. So I'll start off with just my personal thoughts and feelings on Las Vegas. Obviously, the shooting incident that occurred is a terrible tragedy, carried out by a, for lack of a better term, a lone nut, right? Who, decided for whatever reason to kill a whole bunch of people, right? Who knows why, crazy as hell, and a tragedy occurred because of that. That's kind of my general overall reaction. It's horrible. I don't personally know any of the victims, but obviously I feel bad for them. So that's my personal thoughts on, what's going to happen. And of course, here's what I would call the stages of society's reaction to what it's going to be. For the first couple of days after this, we're going to hear our thoughts and prayers are with the family. We grieve as a nation, etc., etc., etc. Oh, and don't politicize tragedy. We'll get to that in a minute. That's going to be the, first initial couple of days. This is pretty much the MO that always goes along with such tragedies. It's a predictable pattern, sadly, because this has become commonplace. As far as thoughts and prayers go, honestly, to the actual victims and the families, thoughts and prayers don't do jack shit. Unfortunately, they're not going to bring back the victims who were killed. Period. Unfortunately, those people are now gone. Period. It's not going to mend the wounds of the people who were injured one way or another. So that's, it's sending good vibes their way probably isn't going to do a whole lot, because that's basically what that amounts to. And we mourn as a nation. I feel bad for these people, but do I mourn for them really on a personal level? Because of human nature, I can't say that I do. Of course, I feel sympathy for the people and the families, but do I have great mourning in my soul for them? No, honestly, I don't. Because it's hard to truly mourn the loss of strangers, okay? So there's that. In the don't politicize tragedy is code for we're not really going to do anything about it, right? Because what's going to happen after the initial stage, of course, there's going to be extensive news coverage of this event for a few weeks to a few months, right? We're going to hear a whole lot about the shooter. We're going to hear a whole lot about his motivations or lack thereof. There's going to be all sorts of finger pointing, right? Or attempted finger pointing at certain things, right? There's going to be a whole lot of pointless debate that won't go anywhere. There will be a whole lot of pointless analysis that won't go anywhere. And then after a few weeks or a few months, obviously this will fall out of the news cycle and will sadly largely be forgotten. And there will be no real impact on our long-term. Sadly, there will be no impact on our society, our overall society from this. Now, the tragedy will continue to play out for the families of the people who are lost and the people who are injured. They will have to recover from their injuries. So their tragedy is not over. But for most of the country, it'll be done, right? And sadly, nothing will change. And you might be asking yourself, well, what do you think should change? Well, what I think should change, what I think should happen, honestly, is I think in this country, we should have a real open and honest discussion about why, in the United States, we are the only industrialized country where mass shootings like this happen on a regular basis. Why is that? We really need to dig into all of the data, that's available to us, from all of the countries. Look at rates of gun ownership, types of guns, what the gun laws are, etc., 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 and really kind of try to drill down as much as humanly possible, right? To really get to the root of the cause. We can also look at mental health, treatments, availability in these countries, because obviously I think these two things tie together, right? Because obviously a person who owns guns but is mentally stable is not going to go out and kill a whole bunch of people. If you're mentally stable and you own guns, you're not going to kill a bunch of people. That's not going to happen. Okay? But at the same token, if you're mentally unstable, but you don't have a criminal record, it doesn't appear he did have a criminal record, but he had access to the guns, and then obviously he was able to carry out his crazy thoughts due to the access to these guns. If he didn't have access to those guns, maybe things would be different. So, you might be asking yourself, well, what are you trying to say? Do you think we should ban guns? Absolutely not. Generally, I am a pretty strong Second Amendment supporter. I am a gun owner myself, and I generally support gun rights. Okay? That being said, however, I think it is most certainly worth looking at the data and figuring out where can we improve in this area. I'm fine with certain restrictions around guns, like maybe no high-capacity magazines, it's just certain restrictions on certain types of weapons. I'm certainly not calling for a ban of guns. That's ridiculous. I think people should have a right to own guns to be able to defend themselves and for, recreational purposes. Target shooting is a whole lot of fun. And for people who want to hunt, I think they should be allowed to. I personally am not a fan of hunting, but I think for folks who want to do it, if they're going to, kill a deer or whatever, and they're actually going to eat the thing. I'm not much for trophy hunting, but if you actually want to go out, shoot your dinner and eat your dinner, I think you should be able to do that. I don't have a problem with that. But there's, like I said, I'm not smart enough. I don't have all the data to say, I think this should be done or that should be done. But at the very least, we should have a real conversation about it and really start heading in a direction, maybe to mitigate some of these things. But sadly, that will not happen. Period. Like I said, there will be talk. Oh, it was a tragedy. Oh, it was the worst mass shooting in modern U.S. history. Blah, blah, blah. But nothing will change. Literally nothing will change. And then, sadly, a few months, maybe a year from now, there will be another mass shooting similar to this. Maybe it won't be as bad, but it will happen. It's just a matter of time before it happens again and again and again and again and again and again, because as a society, for some reason, we refuse to have this conversation, right? It's just an everyday tragedy. It's in and out of the news cycle, and people forget about it. You know, another good example, of course, that's not a shooting, but are tragedies nonetheless, of course, are all of the recent hurricanes that have been hitting the United States, right? Causing all this damage, right? And, you know, all this shit's happening, right? All these people's homes were destroyed. People are killed. There's all tons of property damage. They're tragedies. Straight up, these hurricanes are tragedies, right? You know what's going to happen? Right? These areas are going to be somewhat rebuilt, right? Over time. We'll talk about it, and we'll kind of forget about it, right? What do I think should happen there? Well, what I think should happen, honestly, is in any area that is susceptible to hurricanes, we need to update our fucking infrastructure, right? Our nationwide, our infrastructure gets a grade of D. We need to spend on our infrastructure, not all this other bullshit that we're blowing money on. Our infrastructure is critical and in pathetic shape, so we are very ill-equipped to handle things like natural disasters. You know, but again, as a society, will we demand that our infrastructure improves? No, we won't. Because human nature is we will forget about it. It'll fall behind, out of the news cycle, and it'll out of mind over time, right? So how do I think as a nation we should respond to tragedy? Honestly, I think as a nation we should demand change. We should demand improvements to prevent, as much as possible, these types of tragedies from happening again, regardless of, well, any tragedy, not just mass shooting, not just hurricanes, but any disaster. If we can mitigate it as much as possible, yeah, if that sort of thing still happens, we have to acknowledge that no matter what we do, if we want the freedom to own guns, which I think is a freedom we should have, okay, some people are going to be killed by gun violence that wouldn't have been killed otherwise. I acknowledge that. I acknowledge it's impossible to prevent it 100%. But I think there are things we could do to reduce it that would still preserve freedom for people, right? Same thing with hurricanes and all that. Can we prevent hurricanes? No, of course not. But we can certainly make intelligent choices about our infrastructure and about, you know, preparing for hurricanes much better than we do as a society. Just preparing for any disaster as a society, or after disaster hits, doing course corrections. That way, if it happens again, we can deal with it better. Sadly, I don't think any of this is going to happen. It's just going to be a whole bunch of hand-wringing, thoughts and prayers, and bullshit like that. But at the end of the day, sadly, I don't think anything will change. So, that's pretty much all I have to say on the subject. I'd really like to hear, of course, what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. That pretty much wraps this up. I know it went a few different directions, but, you know, I tried to make my point. Anyway, that's it. So, if you enjoyed, thumbs up. If you hated it, thumbs down. Share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys next time.